um, 1 p.m. live stream. Let's chat about Freemasonry. The last few days and nights, it has been talking about the Freemasonry and the Enlightenment. I honestly, I've gone through a few different definitions of what is Freemasonry. Um, I would honestly, part of me feels like, based on my research and the last couple of days, you could almost call Freemasonry and you know a at least modern Freemasonry, you can almost call it the second greatest Enlightenment experiment. The first greatest being United States of America, right? And I say experiment because it is still ongoing. So as with Freemasonry, so it's never going to, it's not, you can't call it success or failure because it's still ongoing. So there's always a chance for things to go well, things to go poorly, things to get better, things to get worse. But I would say, the Enlightenment ideals found a home in Freemasonry, found a home in America, and the extent to which those ideals are able to persevere in the craft is, I think, a test or an experiment as to their value. So I think maybe you could define once again Freemasonry as the second greatest experiment born from the Enlightenment, at least modern Freemasonry, as the second greatest experiment born from the Enlightenment. But for now, let's see who joins. Spend the first hour just chatting. As always, hit that like and subscribe button. I'm just doing a poll question. Thank you, by the way, everybody who's joined. It's been great to see the number of likes and views and subscriptions the past few days. Truly, truly appreciated. Thank you for being here. I hope I spelled that correctly. If I didn't, I'm very sorry. But welcome. Please take a moment. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Let me know how I look, how I sound. And any question you have about Freemasonry, please let me know. I will do my best to answer. I've been a Freemason since 2007. Don't know everything, but I have a fair bit of experience, and I think I do have some knowledge to share, and I just love talking to people about this stuff. Dad, how's it going? I'm working on my flights right now. Once I have the date, it may get pushed back till later in June, as opposed to right now. Maybe the latter half of June, I may be coming, but I'm going to know soon, and as soon as I know, I will let you know. I mean, who needs sleep? Sleep is very overrated, Sleep is very overrated, but thank you for being here as always. One vote for Philippines, one vote for Brazil. I hope everybody is doing well. Please take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know how it's going. If there's anything that you guys want to chat about specifically when it comes to Freemasonry. I was thinking again of discussing, for the last time, the Enlightenment period, but also thinking about discussing specific Masons from the Enlightenment period, Voltaire, Diderot, there's a few other ones. But Rondo, let me know how you're doing and if you're having a good day. And Dad, same thing for you. Also, obviously, the tariffs have gone into effect, aluminum and steel, which is going to affect Canadian companies and businesses. And to a certain extent, it will affect Masonic companies and Masonic businesses, or Masonic temples, I should say, or Masonic lodges, which require those materials for their buildings. I never sleep because sleep is the cousin of death. Well, I wish I could say I never sleep, but that is definitely not the case. I do sleep. Maybe I, wish I slept less, but I've been known to nap, so I can't say I'm that special. But I hope everybody is doing well. If you are just joining, please take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button, and let me know how you're doing. Good, I'm glad, Rondo. As I was saying, this first hour is just waiting to see who joins and what they want to talk about. And then the second hour is usually a more specific topic. Yeah, I got it. Although honestly, I've never heard this song, New York State of Mind. I'll have to check it out. You know, I was thinking at first it was a reference to the Jay-Z song New York, which is a very crazy popular song for what felt like ever. But I will check it out. I love music. Music is proof that God loves us and wants us to be happy, which is something I truly, truly believe. So, what's your favorite song as we wait for some more people to potentially find us? Quizzy is back. Welcome. Thank you for joining once again. Truly appreciate you being here. Nas is greater than Jay-Z. Honestly, I don't know enough about hip hop to say. I enjoy hip hop, but I don't know enough about the you know the relative merits of the different artists. I would say my favorite, I'm going to be incredibly boring here and predictable and say my favorite is Eminem. Just especially because I was born 83, so being 17, 18, 19 in the 2000s, like, you had to be an Eminem fan. But thank you for the first like. But, I mean, Jay-Z is incredible, you know. I love Biggie, I love Tupac, so just in general, music is great. It's funny how many conspiracy theorists, one of their arguments over the last few years is that Freemasonry has infiltrated the music industry, and they seem to, for some reason, specifically pick hip hop. Like they'll say, or to a lesser extent, like pop music. You know, they'll say Freemasonry infiltrated hip hop or pop music, but they won't say like Freemasonry infiltrated like country music for some reason. I don't know. We'll see. I don't think it's going to be crazy long. It kind of depends on how many people are here, how I'm feeling about it, all that jazz as well. So, but I wonder what it is about hip hop music. I wonder what it is about kind of pop music that conspiracy theorists will say Freemasonry's infiltrated those kind of genres, but they don't say that about country. They don't say that about metal. They don't necessarily say that about rock and roll. Might be an interesting study. We'll see. We'll see how long it goes and how busy it gets on the chat. But I appreciate the offer once again, Quiz. You did a great job before. For now, let's just see who joins. As I was saying, I always spend the first hour or so just chatting, hanging out, waiting to see who joins. Once again, Dad, you're in the chat. I am looking to figure out roughly when I'll come home. I know it's going to be earlier, but I think it might be the latter half of June. I'm going to get the flight booked in the next day or tomorrow. It just depends because I might have some Masonic things mid-June. Freemasonry, I can't imagine that to be the case, but I could be. I'm trying to think what, like, they said that for hip hop because could be. I mean, that makes sense. Yeah, that does make sense that it's so popular that that's where they go after. Was a Freemason involved in the first recordings of music? I'm curious about that. I did not know that. or like the first creation of like the gramophone, or however they used to record music. Good morning, Kirk. I hope you're doing well. Freemasonry recording music. Origins. Looking that up on the Google machine right now. I hope everybody is doing well. I am well. I am having a great time. I had a great morning. We did some really cool stuff at our Masonic lodges. A really great presentation, which was a lot of fun. Now I'm just busy organizing something, and then we'll be all finished. So, or kind of, I have one big event on Friday, and then it's all done. But I do hope everybody is doing well, having a great day. Thank you, everybody who has been here so far. Thank you, Kirk. I truly appreciate it. It's hard to believe we're coming up to the weekend, but we are. It's crazy. Was it Edison a part of the development of the photograph? I think so, but Edison is always, like, I always hear Edison was kind of a guy who stole a lot of other ideas. So Thomas Edison, while Thomas Edison's Freemasonry affiliation is not definitively documented, there is evidence suggesting he was a member. Letters from Humboldt Lodge number 476 to Edison indicate a connection. His dedication and progress to bringing light, literally, to enlighten the world, aligns with the principles of Freemasonry. I mean, Edison, he was involved in the first phone, right? I'm trying to think what his list. Light bulb was the most famous. How old was I on September 11th, 2001? I was 18, almost 19. I remember that morning I was sleeping and my mom came into my room and said New York was under attack, and then just left. I found very confusing for a moment. I remember I was going to university at the time. I just started at university. It was my first year. And this was back in the day when they didn't have like flat screen TVs. It still was the old tube style TV. And they had those carts, and they brought out all around the university, they had brought out these carts with the TVs on them, plugged into the wall where they could find an outlet, and they were just showing CNN on a loop. So, yeah. I mean, I do think some people, I will say for me, and obviously being in Canada, it wasn't like, I did anything different I would have done otherwise, but there's definitely a feeling of, something is different in the world, that's for sure. It was. Anytime there's anything like that happen, it's a very sad day. So, you like watch CNN? We used it because it was, just kind of, it's the default news station. When you think about like where to catch national news, at least in Canada, I feel like CNN becomes the default. So 6 key inventions by Thomas Edison. Hank, welcome from Germany. Thank you for being here. I truly appreciate it. I hope you will be so kind as to hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know how it's going. Let me know if you know anything about Freemasonry in Germany, or if you have any questions about Freemasonry. I know that Germany does have a very, very cool Masonic history. I agree. I'm glad about that as well. But, yeah. Oh my gosh, Rondo. I can't even imagine what that must have been like. That must have been absolutely mind-boggling. Because first, you're just naturally on edge and, afraid because this thing has happened. And everybody in the country, no matter where you are, almost in some ways, everybody in the world is going to be on edge. But on top of that, you're in a place which could likely be considered an attack target. So you then have that fear added on. Then you're trying to figure out how you're going to move people around. Do you evacuate people? and that's what the leadership has to figure out. What you then have to just figure out is how are you going to make that, work, right? Like it's very, very, so the hectic nature of it, I can only imagine. Um, and as teachers, for example, I can only imagine what they would be going through, trying to hopefully impart some type of sense of calm or confidence to students who are going to be quite nervous, and they're kind of looking to the teachers to be um, a voice of reason and a voice of calm. It just would have been super tough. So respect to teachers, respect to everybody who had to go through that in a way that I in Canada did not. I remember the teacher gave us a day off of homework, so that was nice, I guess. It was just a really strange couple of days, that's for sure. But at the end of the day, America's made it through, and America has the ability to survive a lot of things, to its credit. Welcome. If you are just joining us, thank you so much for being here. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. Let me know how it's going. This first hour, we're just going to hang out, and whatever people want to chat about, that's what we'll talk about. The second hour is when we go into more specific topics. Oh, I never even thought of that, but that's a really good point, Rondo. I never even thought about the fact that, if you're living in Washington, D.C., many of your friends are going to have parents who are part of the federal workforce, which means they could feel like they're targeted, or they might have even worked for the, emergency services, police, firefighters, and so they're going to be on high alert and preparing to deal with any type of emergency. And then their families obviously has to worry about if their parents get called to do so. It would have been really tough. I mean, it seems on the one hand, Rondo, that does feel kind of cold, but on the other hand, I suppose what more, maybe the teacher figured can't do anything about the situation, so might as well just focus on what we can focus on, which in this case would be, I guess, learning statistics. It's interesting you had a statistics class in high school. We never had like that much of a specialty in high school. We had we had different levels of math, but I don't recall ever getting a statistics specific thing or course. I took a dual diploma. I took both vocational studies and academic studies, but I'm a terrible craftsman. I can't build anything to save my life, so there's that. Thank you so much, everybody who has been here. I hope you are all doing well. Welcome back. How's it going? I hope that you are doing well. Don't forget, everybody, I have a lot of new audience members here. We also have my personal YouTube channel where on Saturdays at midnight I do a Minute Movie live stream. I may not do one this week because I may be traveling. What seems slightly oxymoronic? I missed something. But welcome. I hope everybody is doing well. Thank you again for being here. By the way, 6 votes once. Oh, actually interesting. So 6 votes about which Masonic jurisdiction would you want to learn more? Any English teachers out there, notice how I did not end my sentence or my question with a preposition. Oh, I see what you're saying, Rondo. Yes. I am a speculative Mason, sir. So there you go. That's my excuse. But yeah, I always felt like maybe it would make sense if we as Masons did try to learn how to build stuff as part of like our education. But yeah, I can't build anything. If I tried to build you a stone wall, the whole thing would collapse. I know, I get it, Rondo. And I do find it funny as well. I'm lucky enough to have the title Mason, but you give me a stone, a chisel, and I'm breaking that stone, but I ain't shaping it into anything. May not even be strong enough to break it. I may just end up bashing a hammer against a rock uselessly. Welcome, Johnny. Thank you for being here. So, about which Masonic jurisdiction would you want to learn more? I asked the question yesterday or last night at my 1 a.m. stream. Philippines took off in the lead, but here with 7 votes, Brazil is in the lead. Looks like 4-3. That is really, really interesting. Let me know if you voted, why you voted one way or the other, what it is about Brazil you would want to learn more about versus the Philippines that you want to learn more about. And I hope everybody is having an excellent, excellent day. Thank you so much for being here. So what is it, why Brazil as opposed to the Philippines? Is there something about Brazil you find interesting, or something you've heard about Brazil Masonically? Okay, fair enough. Just because is a good answer. Nothing's wrong with that. I hope, let me know if you can hear me okay, if you're fine, you're hearing the sound from outside. You know what, I may have to close my window. I am going to close my window actually, because there's like a construction happening outside. Just give me 1 sec. Made it back. Are we starting this? We're going to start this at, like I said, about 30, 40 minutes from now. Second hour is always talking about specific topics. The first hour is just hanging out, chatting, and hanging out. So, because the history of the Knights Templar, I did not know that the Knights Templar traveled from Portugal to Brazil, right? I knew that I always thought of them as being European in origin. I will have to look into that some more, and maybe if I go there, talk to them about that, because it'd be really cool to learn more about. I mean, Freemasonry in South America is really fascinating. It is kind of formed through, it was really founded primarily. Interesting. Could the discovery of a cave in Brazil, the Brazilian Templar mystery? That's really interesting. Explore the Brazilian Templar mystery. Is that what you're referring to? Let me see. Could the discovery of hidden caves in Brazil? What were the reasons for coming to South America 2 centuries before Columbus sailed to the New World? What goals did they have for medieval society? Find out how Dr. Kathleen Ball's exploration of a dungeon in France, where many Templars were imprisoned in the early 14th century, sheds light on their life-altering and history-changing discovery. The Brazilian Templar mystery is the story of Dr. Kathleen Ball's discovery of a cave in a remote area in the outskirts of a small Brazilian town, a cave carved by the Knights Templar. It is very interesting. Let's see. The Templar caves in Brazil. This is from Brick Masons. Brazil, the land of exquisite landscape and a tropical lifestyle, has witnessed various cultures throughout history. Lately, there has been a discovery in the heart of its caves that might change completely what we have known about the history of modern South America. A medieval society with French roots that originated in the Middle East, known as the Knights Templar, may have set foot in Brazil before Columbus. Research is being conducted to find out more about the motive that drove the monastic order across the Atlantic Ocean. A new documentary written by Dr. Kathleen Ball, a researcher and adventurer, tells the story of a new cave discovered near a small Brazilian town and reveals new information on the usually misunderstood warrior group. When Kathleen and her friend Adele start exploring the fascinating nature of Brazil, they met a stranger who tells them of a secret underground vein made of rocks a few miles away. The Knights Templar possibly arrived in Brazil in the 13th century, hundreds of years before Columbus. The order fled from Europe all across the Atlantic to escape their unfortunate fate under King Philip IV. However, circumstances of how and when is still unsolved. Prior to this discovery, the world had no record that Templars traveled outside of Asia and Europe. That could be kind of a fun thing to do, like a Masonic presentation on, where you could actually show the movie maybe in a Masonic lodge or a Masonic meeting. Might be a lot of fun. So thank you, Johnny Rockwell, for sharing that information with me. I had no idea. Where did you first hear about that? About the idea of the Knights Templar in Brazil? No promises, Kirk. We'll see what happens. No promises. Messi. Welcome back, Messi. The clown is back as well. Philip T. You can ask about that, Philip. That's perfectly fine. I will ask you to hit the like and subscribe button if you've not done so yet. And if you have, thank you. I was born this way. I was born missing my legs. So, yeah, really, it's a pretty quick, boring story. I was born missing my legs. I used artificial legs for the first bit until I went to high school, and then I switched over to a wheelchair. And so, yeah. So being born with no legs, it's not the same, in my opinion, as losing limbs in an accident, especially later in life. It's people who grow up or live their lives with their limbs, and then for whatever reason lose them in an accident. I feel like that'd be really hard to have to relearn everything. For me, I learned how to do everything once, and then adapted for myself, and then I just kept going from there on in. So I like being in a wheelchair. If they went back in time and offered me legs, I don't think I would take it. I think I would prefer to be born the way I was, because I like me just the way I am, not to be sappy like that. Yeah, I'm in a wheelchair, so see, you can see me wheeling around right now. You look like Jocko's brother. I'll take it. I will take it, because Jocko is a handsome fella. And he's like a Navy SEAL, so, Yeah, well, I mean, I knew about Friday the 13th, so it makes sense that if they were to flee across the Atlantic, they would do so after Friday the 13th to escape King Philip the Fourth. We should, Johnny. I agree. I feel like I'm pretty skeptical. I find it interesting. I'm skeptical of the claim just because if they did not know what was, that North America existed, like, where were they going? Famously, Columbus was trying to find a new trade route. The Knights of Columbus were just trying to escape persecution by the king. So I feel like if you're trying to escape persecution, you're not going to travel in the direction that you've never been before, because things could be worse. You're going to travel somewhere that's safe, like Africa, for example. Maybe because they knew about the African continent. I don't know. It's interesting. I'd have to read more about it to know more about it, which is a pretty, pretty illuminating tautology there. I'll have to read more about it to know more about it. Not the most informative statement I've ever made. I do not. I have a cat. Columbus was hired as a bounty hunter to find them. Really? So that's a new part of this story. So a lot of this seems like a very interesting story. I'll have to read more about it. I'll check out the video. I don't know if they have it for free anywhere. Maybe streaming somewhere. And if so, maybe I can track it down that way. Smokey, a friend of mine, has a similar story. Oh, Smokey. Sorry, I missed what you said, Smokey. They were stabbed 30. Oh, yes, you're saying that before. Harry's here. Welcome, Harry. I'm really sorry that that happened to you. That would be very, very terrifying. Do I know about the Malian Empire? I've heard of Mali, but not the Malian Empire. I'm assuming it's connected. Let me just go to Google and search it. I hope you're doing well, Harry. Thank you for being here. So the Malian Empire. The Malian Empire was a West African empire that flourished from approximately 1235 to 1610. Pretty impressive length of time. Reaching its peak under the reign of Mansa Musa. It is known for wealth, particularly from the gold trade, and its influence on the culture and history of the region. Um, Founded by Sundita Keita, the empire grew from a small kingdom to a vast territory stretching across West Africa. Sundiata's successors included Mansa Musa, extended Mali's influence and control over trade routes and other kingdoms. Mansa Musa's reign is particularly famous for pilgrimage to Mecca, which brought the empire its wealth and the attention of the wider world. Gold production. After his death, the empire gradually declined due to internal conflicts, challenges from neighboring states, and shift in trade routes. By the 16th century, the empire fragmented into smaller states. The last Mansa died in 1610, marking the end of the Qaeda dynasty and the Mali Empire. Interesting. Thank you for sharing. Thank you, Messi. I appreciate it, and I agree. Yeah, also, if you want to show me support, a good way to do it is patreon.com/square and compass. Patreon.com/square and compass. Brazil is still in the lead with 69% of the vote to 31%. So, I wonder if there's any connection between the Malian Empire and, I mean, speculative masonry would somewhat exist at this time. The Regius manuscript dates, example, for when the Malian Empire. Malian Empire Freemasonry. Masonry, certainly use of stone. Thank you, Johnny Rockwell. I truly, truly appreciate it. And so the old supply and demand thing, even back then, right? Things still ran based on these economic principles. So yeah, you would if you put enough gold in. So I guess, when we think of stonemasonry, we think of stone. I guess gold is more a blacksmith or metalsmith kind of operation. I think it's okay for now, quiz, but we'll see. If we start to get a few more people jumping on, then I'll put you in as a moderator. But I again appreciate the offer. And I'll see you, Messi. Thank you again so much for being here. I truly, truly appreciate it. Because 1324, the Regius manuscript dates to, when does the Regius manuscript date to again? I always forget the date. 13 something or other? 1390. So it would have been around the same time, but very, very, very different locations, that's for sure. Very. And so, Harry, I feel like it's been a minute. How's it going? Let me know how you're doing. Let me know if there's anything that's been happening in your neck of the woods. Hey, did you ever see my cover, your cover song? Um, I'm trying to think cover. I'm trying to remember what that was, forgive me. No, I don't think I've done it yet. Okay, cool. What'd you think of the 3 a.m. stream? Do you prefer 1 a.m. streams or 1 a.m. Eastern streams or 1 p.m.? Basically, do you prefer during the day or during the night streams? Chris Heaton said hello. Welcome, Chris. Thank you. Or Henton said hello. Welcome, Chris. I hope you're doing well. Please take a moment, hit the like and subscribe button. Courtney, thank you for being here as always. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, Smokey, throw down in there again, just because. Please forgive me. I've just been so busy. Please forgive me. Maybe you can write down the name again, and I will make sure to check it out. How are things in Texas, in Tejas? Oops. Trying to just check something out quickly while we wait to see. Again, we'll give another 10, 15 minutes, then we'll start on the specific topic, which once again will be I think I'm going to talk about Voltaire. It's one of those Enlightenment figures that people express an interest in. I think it could be really cool to discuss him a little bit. More specifically, his Masonic journey. Voltaire had that famous quote, I may not agree with what you said, but I will die for your right to say it. That was Voltaire. So just to give you an example of how popular he is, or at least how popular his ideals are. My favorite state, asked Quizzy. That's a great question, Quiz. It's got to be Illinois because of Chicago and Glenview, right? If my two favorite cities are Chicago and Glenview, then it has to be Illinois. But I have been lucky enough to visit so many different states and enjoy visiting them all. I mean, the most beautiful state might have been Florida. I love Texas. Michigan is a state where I've been lucky enough to visit it several times, and Michigan is kind of like a way station for me. I'm usually there passing through. So I have a really interesting relationship with Michigan because it's like I'm there often, but I'm not there for long. I'm there and then I'm somewhere else, like within a few hours. I'm either going to the airport or going to the bus station or going to the train station. So it's very kind of interesting that way. My views on how I kind of feel about Michigan. I have visited New Jersey for exactly 5 minutes. I'll tell you about that story in a second, Johnny Rockwell. Indiana is right next to it. Sorry, Smokey. I think I missed it. I don't see it. If you tried to type it as a link, usually links don't show up. I do got swagger. What can I say? Ollie is back. Welcome back. Magnus is here again. Thank you so much for being here once again. Let's not start this whole moon landing. We already had this a couple streams ago. You missed it. I forget what I was talking about. So yeah, my favorite state though, it'd have to be Illinois. It is north. It's amazing. It is amazing. And a lot of people find that surprising, but I am so far in the south of Canada that America is to the north of me. It's to the south of me at all. We're kind of surrounded. They do not. Some Masonic practitioners, founders had knowledge of the Kabbalah, but it's not something that's taught. And I think the connections are a little bit kind of oftentimes overstated. um, in my opinion. No worries, Quiz. I do truly appreciate being here. Thank you for always offering to help. I appreciate that as well. Yeah, in about 10 minutes, we'll start talking about Voltaire. 18 votes. Brazil at 67%. So the 1 a.m. quiz, Philippines was in the lead, and um, Brazil. This one, Brazil is in the lead. So something about apparently, if you're up at 1 a.m., you're fascinated by the Philippines. I want to learn more about it. And if you're up at 1 p.m., Brazil catches your interest. So that's very interesting. Not directly. Yeah, I mean, not directly. Again, I've never been taught it directly. I've done a little bit of research on it and do find some connections, but I was never told that they were, or not even connections, parallels. But I was never kind of taught that they're parallel. I had to just look it up. But nothing, I mean, there's also parallels between Freemasonry and the Free Gardeners. So, I would say, though, to the most extent, I've talked about this a bunch, where I see modern Freemasonry, what I see modern Freemasonry as being most influenced by is Enlightenment thinking. Voltaire, Ben Franklin, Diderot, George Washington, more so as a philosophical movement, more so than any particular Jewish, quote unquote, or not just Jewish, trying to think of the word, like, like religious traditions, whether they be Jewish, Christian, Muslim. Like, I don't see that. What I see is a masonry that has been influenced most heavily by philosophical ideas from the Enlightenment. Um, yeah, because there's like different types of there's Christian mysticism, Jewish mysticism, Wiccan, right? But like I said, to me, I've heard some people, I don't, you want to use this term disparagingly, I've heard some quote unquote conspiracy theorists, claim that Freemasonry is influenced by different type of religious mysticisms. It feels like sometimes, based on our current climate, there's a certain level of anti-Semitism combined with conspiracy thinking. So they'll say it's Jewish mysticism, but I have heard others who have negative views toward Muslim, negative views toward Christians, claim that it derived from some type of Christian mysticism or Muslim mysticism, but it is not the case, in my opinion, based on my research, is what influences Freemasonry in 2025, more so than anything else, is Enlightenment principles from the 18th century. So Adam Weishaupt, I see the last name there, of the Illuminati fame, whose name never fails to that guy is been dead for over a century and he's still a pain in the ass to Freemasons. He started the Illuminati because he felt that Freemasonry wasn't mystical enough the way he wanted to be. He also thought it was too expensive. So he started the Illuminati as a way to try to create a kind of a Masonic adjacent group that brought in these mystical ideas. But so he always shows up. But he was a Mason. He didn't like Masonry. He left Masonry, started a new group. The new group fizzled out in like 5 minutes. And kind of that was the end of that one, right? 1888, I think, is when he founded it. I could be getting that date wrong. I mean, Freemasonry definitely does not want a one world government nor a one world religion, right? Again, I'm speaking for myself. What I've always seen from Freemasonry is that it wants brethren to be respectful of their own religious beliefs, but also respectful of the respectful of the right for people to have their own religious beliefs. So be respectful to your own beliefs, but also respect men whose beliefs are different than yours, or Masons whose beliefs are different than yours. And I don't believe we have a one world government. I think the interests of different parts of the world are simply too at odds to allow for a one world government, because what is best for China is not going to be what is best for America, is not going to be what is best for South Africa, right? And it's not a matter of them wanting them to be different or people wanting them to be different. It's just where they're located, the nature, the size, the population. They have different interests, and it'd be impossible to get people to sign on for one world government because everybody would have competing interests. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, um, um, we can have a condo board where I live because everybody who lives in this building has an interest in being part of in what happens in this building. You couldn't bring people who don't live in the building onto the condo board because they will have a different set of interests. So Freemasonry is similar to Sufism. You know what? I've heard that, but I know very little about Sufism. I have heard that though in the past. A mystical tradition. I mean, I'm sure you will find parallels between Freemasonry and almost any kind of ceremonial practices because there's only so many ways one can have a ceremony. I find connections between Freemasonry and TV shows I like. Do you know what I mean? I call it the blue car syndrome or frequency bias. If you find something fascinating and interesting, you are more likely to see more of it. That's just kind of the nature of being interested in something. I've heard of Sufism and Rumi. I don't know much about it. According to the Google bot, the key aspect of Sufism is mysticism, spiritual perfection, inward journey, love and unity, ritual and practice. Um, Sufism incorporates various rituals and practices, including ritual chanting, recitation of the Quran, devotional music. So, I mean, Freemasonry sometimes has music incorporated into its ceremonies. Certainly, it has its ritual and ceremonies. So there's that as well. But I do feel, just reading this very briefly, I do feel to me like what Freemasonry ultimately encouraged and focused on was kind of an anti-mystic ideal, right? The idea was the value of reason, again, enlightenment. I would describe Freemasonry as the second greatest experiment in the application of enlightenment values, the first being the United States of America, the first greatest. But I'll have to look up, and I've heard of Rumi as well. Let's see some of the things he says. He was a poet, I know that. Systemic noise. First of all, I'm not a fan of that kind of language about people who are LGBT. So I am going to be blocking you, systemic noise. And second, whether I were gay or not, would not affect my ability to join a Masonic Lodge, and that is something I'm very proud of. Because, anyone, again, believe in a supreme being, are of the right age, and if you're joining the fraternal side as a man, can join. Sexual orientation is not a part of it. I hope everybody is doing well. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you will take a moment to please hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you for joining. I mean, what Courtney's saying, I mean, I'm not the type who, I don't think a one world government is practical or feasible. I don't ultimately think you'd see streamlining. I understand why there may be a natural kind of slant amongst some towards a one world government because it feels like it'd be more efficient, but ultimately I think it'd be inefficient. And I think human beings, they need to be able to have an identity of some sort. Um, And, Canadian is an identity that I'm very proud of, or of which I'm very proud. And I would not want to see that kind of taken, even if it results in more streamlined quotes. Some of Rumi's quotes: the wound is the place where the light enters you. I've heard that before and I really like it. Let yourself be silently drawn by the stronger pull of what you love. What you seek is seeking you. Don't grieve. Anything you lose comes around in another form. That's not a bad idea, Smokey, but you can always jump in and just ask questions, say hello. You are not a drop in the ocean, you are the entire ocean. I like that quote. Only from the heart can you touch the sky. Live life as though everything is rigged in your favor. Another way to say that is fortune favors the bold. Respond to every call that excites your spirit. Freemasonry excites your spirit. You should call out that, you should act on that. ARABI. Oh, I don't know who Ibn Arabi, I've got him here. Wow. June 28th, 1165 to November 16th, 1240. Apparently he was incredibly famous. I'm looking for some of his quotes. I am the will established between the heaven and the earth. Love me, love yourself. That's really interesting. I like that quote. There's something very Masonic about that. Love me, love yourself in me, right? The way I would interpret that is he's saying, we all have parts of ourselves that we will see reflected to us in other people. Find that part and love that part of them because it's also reflective of what you are. I think is what he means by that. The greatest sin is appraisal of the heart's desire. I am the reality of the world, the center of the circle. That's a very Masonic statement right there. The center of the circle. If you know, you know. He is the creator always, perpetually, and it is invalid that this principle should stop. I like the fact he calls himself the center of the circle. Again, that is something that is very Masonic in its nature and in its character. By the way, I'm going to be sending out some mass emails soon, letting people know what is going on. That's a good quote, Courtney. So just pay attention. If you want to join my mailing list, you can go to squareandcompass.ca/contact, and you will get the chance to sign up for my mailing list, because I've been going more and focusing more on my social media, but I do want to get back to sending out some emails, or sending out email blasts. Of the three, the Torah, the Bible, Lukumi, which would you say is the one that you feel like you've got the most out of, or find yourself returning to most frequently? Yes, Magnus, I am on social media. I know you can't really click on the link necessarily, but you can probably copy and paste. Square_and_compass promotions. So Instagram.com/square_and_compass_promotions. Yeah, I'd have to look more into it, Rondo, but I appreciate you letting me know about that. And I'm sure that if I actually do some research, I will be able to, find out more about that. It'd be a lot of fun. It'd be a lot of fun to learn more about it. Magnus says he'll be right back. Maybe Magnus is going on to, jump on my Instagram, which if y'all want to do that as well, I truly appreciate it. We're going to give it another 5 minutes, then we'll start on today's topic, Voltaire. One of my favorite Enlightenment thinkers is actually a guy called Condorcet, or Condorcet, which I'll talk about maybe another day. Kaylin is back. Welcome, Kaylin. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for being here. Truly, truly appreciate it. Kate? All right. MySpace. How old are you, Smokey the Clown? MySpace? Good for you. Sticking with the classics. I am doing well, and honestly, by the way, you're probably very smart, Smokey, to stay off of social media, but I kind of need to do it, so, 44. I'm 41. Yep, so when I saw that MySpace reference, I was like, wow, that's great. Although I never had a MySpace. Honestly, I was kind of late to the social media game. I didn't have a Facebook page until well after my friends all had one. So I guess it's one of those things where we all kind of find our own socials. I remember the MySpace craze. All my friends were getting MySpace, and I thought it was kind of silly. I thought social media in general was silly. I still think it's silly, yet I'm on it all the time. Thank you, Magnus. I truly appreciate it. The other place you can find me, Magnus, I'm going to mention this as well, and you can join this for free also, or you can join a paid tier, is patreon.com/square and compass. Patreon.com/square and compass. Good for you, Smokey the Clown. Nothing is wrong with that at all. It probably means you have better mental health than the rest of us. I would buy that. Because social media is one of those things, it's almost like a double-edged sword, especially if you're trying to use it for an income-generating purpose, right? You kind of end up living by, you live by the sword and die by the sword, basically. So it can be very, very tough to figure out how best to proceed. And by the way, it's Father's Day coming up soon. No, nothing's wrong with that. I say good for you. Josiah Rodriguez, how's it going? I hope you're doing well. Thank you for being here. Let me know, Josiah Rodriguez, how you voted on the poll question. What do you find more interesting? What do you want to learn more about? Brazil or the Philippines? Okay, so I think we're at that stage now. We can kind of start talking about the main subject. And again, this will be a shorter stream before we then jump off for the day. I will be back on tonight at 1 a.m. once again. Age speculation, or like how old he was? Not that I know of. Again, I don't think Hiram Abiff was actually a real human. I think he was a conglomerate of humans mentioned in the Bible at first, and then adapted into Masonic ritual. Oof. Wow, got a bit of heartburn there. So, Voltaire was a leading philosopher and writer of the Enlightenment period, but many may not know is that he was initiated into Freemasonry just a month before his death in 1778. I've heard that as well. You may know Voltaire as a leading philosopher and writer of the Enlightenment period, but what many may not know is that he was initiated into Freemasonry just a month before his death in 1778. While his time with Freemason was short, Voltaire's lifelong legacy of rebelling against intolerance and bigotry make him a brother we hold in high esteem. Born Francois Marie, I can't pronounce that. We're going to call him Born Francois in 1694. In France, Voltaire grew up well educated with an upper class background. He attended the Jesuit. I will be back tonight as well, Rondo, but no worries. I roll literally, you roll figuratively. See what I did there? He attended the Jesuit College of Louis Le Grand in Paris, where he developed a knack for writing in all forms and a passion for social life and theater. After college, against his father's wishes, Voltaire focused his career on writing and literature in place of law. Voltaire established his early writing career in Paris during the more colorful and progressive Regency, which took place between Louis XIV and XV. Growing up, Voltaire witnessed the intolerance of the French monarchy ruled by the Catholic Church, which made him skeptical of religious institutions as a whole. As a response, Voltaire developed politically satirical and witty style of writing, which made him quite popular amongst Parisian elites of the time. He produced his first literary success, Oedipe, a tragedy in 1718, in which he coined the pen name Voltaire. Voltaire was heavily influenced by England's more liberal government. It was in England he studied. Y'all got that song stuck in my head? There you go. Peace, Rondo. Thank you again for being here. Truly appreciate it. It was in England he studied the works of John Locke and Isaac Newton, which then developed a philosophy that was deeply linked to science, facts, and reason. He believed great scientists and philosophers thrive because of England's large population of diverse religious backgrounds. Voltaire returned to France from exile in 1729, published his work in 1734, a brief yet impactful summary inspired by what he learned in England that, in turn, criticized French government. This would be his Letters from England work. It introduced a modern way of thinking that de-emphasized organized religion and focused on the progress of arts and sciences to fulfill man's destiny. Its publication, Roll Out by Ludacris. It's a great song. Its publication led to a warrant for Voltaire's arrest, causing him to go into hiding in the French chateau. Could you imagine having to be on the run, on the lam from the government in a French chateau? It inspired his increased focus on the sciences and metaphysics. Together, they published a number of works, brought little scientific. Most people, when you think about, I got to be on the run from the law, you're hiding in like a cave somewhere. This dude's hiding in a mansion. You change your name? JJ. Okay, well, I love country music. I love the country, so country for life indeed. Country, see if I can do this. For life. Wolfpack. NWO. As a successful writer, Voltaire used his celebrity status to speak out for and vouch for citizens who were wrongfully persecuted. Over the course of his entire life and through his works, Voltaire emphasized the use of humanitarianism over brute force. He realized change could be brought about by the pressure from public opinion, stating, "Opinion rules the world, but in the long run, it is the philosophers who shape the opinion." Hopefully what it actually is the Masons, in some ways, Masonic philosophies. Voltaire was known in social circles as a deist and saw religion as a vital means for people to connect with one another. Voltaire's wit and wisdom allowed him to meet many notable people in his day, among them Brother Ben Franklin, whom Voltaire met at the Academy of Sciences in 1778, while Brother Franklin was a minister to France. Ben Franklin had been a practicing Mason for 40 years at that point, and was hoping to join a lodge of the Nine Sisters in France to form connections and bring aid to America during the American Revolution. Brother Franklin joined the lodge of Nine Sisters in 1778, and in April 1778 convinced Voltaire to join as an entered apprentice Freemason in Paris. Voltaire's membership was representative of the free thinking ideals of the Lodge of the Nine Sisters. Later, Ben Franklin would be raised to Venerable Master of the Lodge, serving from 1779 to 1781. I have a country accent? Awesome. Voltaire became ill and passed away in Paris on May 30th, 1778, writing, "I die adoring God, loving my friends, not hating my enemies, and detesting superstition." Brother Voltaire left behind a rich life and legacy of seeking justice and standing firm in one's belief, and is regarded as one of the leading minds of the Enlightenment era. Though he was only a Freemason for a short time, his exemplification of our core values, such as justice, tolerance, over the span of his life, make him a brother for all to revere. So interesting little piece of fact that Voltaire joined Freemasonry 1 month before his death, which I did not know. I knew that Voltaire and Ben Franklin were close, and it was Ben Franklin who encouraged Voltaire to join Freemasonry, but not that, the not that he joined so late in his life. As he found out, I don't think he was planning to die a month after he joined. I did get the reference. Ayo. When I worked in a jail, there was one of the clients there, one of the inmates there, who once told me, I was on the range, and he came up to me, or he shouted at me, he wanted to talk to me from the other side, so to get my attention, he shouted, "Hey, yo." And I was like, if you're going to say that, you'd better be NWO for life. And he did not know what I meant. I mean, the thing is, Voltaire was progressive for his time, but again, progressive, the key word there being progressive for his time. If you're talking about Voltaire, I mean, it's not as though everybody at that time, to a certain extent, would have had some views that were concerning. I mean, there's one Enlightenment thinker, speaker, who was actually like not only for women's rights, but for the right for women to vote, which at that time was like incredibly shocking, right? To me, what matters is the direction more than the actual stated position, right? So, for example, Mason, Enlightenment thinker George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, these guys said things like all men are created free, but also were comfortable or willing to hold slaves. To me, what matters though is the direction, not the absolute position. So even though in that moment, their position was wrong in that they were holding slaves, they were in the wrong. They were taking the country and the world in a direction that was the right direction. In the ideals of all men are created equal. In the same way, sure, Voltaire was not, had his faults. Many Enlightenment thinkers did, but the directions that they were pointing to with their writings is what matters most, and that was, in my opinion, a very, very positive direction. I've talked about this before, and I've said, one thing that scares me in 2025 is I worry if we are maybe losing that direction and going in a different direction that I'd rather we not. So, for whatever it's worth. But thank you, everybody, for joining. Just a couple brief little facts, which I hope you found of interest. Please take a moment, if you are new to the stream, to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I do believe, going to be ending this stream earlier than normal. The reason being, I do want to get ready for my stream tonight. I'm going to be switching topics, no longer talking about the Enlightenment. So I need to do some research, get ready for my stream tonight. Raised Eyebrow is here. Good day, Raised Eyebrow. I hope you're doing well. By the way, I hope you will let me know how you voted on the poll question about which Masonic jurisdiction would you like to learn more. I'd love to know for you if it was Brazil or the Philippines, and what made you kind of decide. He wouldn't have gone beyond entered apprentice. To me, you criticize based on relative values, not on absolute. So, again, he may have had uncomfortable ideas sometimes, but you have to judge that in comparison to how other people were. Like, so as Smokey says, right? And again, to me, it's directional that matters more so than anything else. So I'm comfortable, for example, even though I have a lot of respect for him. I'm comfortable criticizing George Washington, Thomas Jefferson for owning slaves, but the direction they were pointing was a direction in which slavery would be abolished with the idea of all men are created equal. And I think that directionality is what matters. Okay, so yeah, so Brazil is in the lead, 65 to 35. Very, very cool. I feel like Brazil Freemasonry is less known than in the Philippines, because in the Philippines, Freemasonry is so popular and so well known, like by the community. Um, it has such a respect that it's really interesting, you know. But yeah, I think it's funny. At 1 a.m. I did this poll and the Philippines won, and 1 p.m. I do this poll and Brazil wins. So apparently, if you stay if you're awake at night, you want to learn about the Philippines, and if you're awake during the day, you want to learn about Brazil. I don't know. I don't know. Masonic Courtney. No, and I understand what you're saying, and it's good to keep in mind that nobody was perfect, and even these people we exalt for different reasons had their faults. Sometimes people are more worthy um, of aspiration than imitation. You know, you aspire to live their values, but you don't want to imitate their faults. You know, for me, I love H.P. Lovecraft, the author. He did all the Cthulhu kind of stuff. He's one of Stephen King's favorite authors, but he also had some very racist ideas. So, you know, maybe aspire to the angels while refusing to imitate the demons. In Ontario too, in Winnipeg, Manitoba too, in Chicago too. So, you know, you're absolutely right. Um, I'm always awake. I wish I could say I was always awake. I'd get more done. And that is absolutely the case, Courtney. You are 100% right. We all bleed the same color. And that is a very, very valid point. And that's something to keep in mind, you know, Shakespeare. If you prick me, do I not bleed? Yes, raised eyebrow. Fear is the oldest and strongest emotion of mankind, and the oldest and strongest type of fear is fear of the unknown, um, which is the first lines from his book on cosmic horror. I always like that. I always thought that might be kind of a fun tattoo to get. The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest type of fear is a fear of the unknown. So, LaRue. I mean, I am home, so I can't go anywhere. But LaRue, I do hope you will hit the like button and the subscribe button. Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. Let me know if you have any questions about Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral. I'd love to hear them. We're probably going to do this stream for another 5 minutes or so. Instagram, not so kind of, but not in the way people think. The Illuminati was started in 18 something or other, 1888, I think, by a gentleman named Adam Weishaupt. I can never pronounce it right. He was a Freemason, but he did not like Freemason. Instagram cut. He was a Freemason who grew to not like the order. He felt it was too expensive and also was not mystical enough, or did not emphasize mysticism. So what he did is he started the Illuminati to try to basically poach members and start something that was more in line with what he wanted it to be. Unfortunately, a lot of people just viewed it, and it was really bargain store Freemasonry and not legitimate, and didn't bother joining, and it died out in about 10 years. And since then, every now and then, somebody somewhere tries to start some Illuminati group for some reason. It never goes far, and sometimes they'll try to connect themselves to Freemasonry and say it's a Masonic Illuminati group, but it's not the case. You know, Illuminati are a separate organization that does not exist in any meaningful or organized way, but that was started almost as a anti-Masonic group, if that makes sense. Meeting tomorrow, Courtney. Meetings tomorrow. Meeting on Friday. Fish fry on Saturday. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Um, which is a good thing, Smokey. I think that's a song lyric as well, right? I mean, I can't speak for anybody else, LaRue. I'm not a fan of Trump, but having said that, everybody has their different political views, and Freemasonry, we have men of all different political beliefs, which is something I really love about Freemasonry, is the fact that we have that. So, as well as men of all different religious beliefs, which I love that as well. So, I think that makes Freemasonry a really, really special thing. But thank you everybody for being here. All right, I know this has been a really short stream, but I really should get to my practice and my studies for tomorrow. So, one more time, please take a moment, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Thank you for being here. It's been a great stream as always. It sounded like a lyric. It sounded like a lyric I've heard before. But I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much. Maybe I'll see you guys tonight at 1 a.m. Smokey, Courtney, everybody who's joined, thank you so much. It's been a blast. I will see you all soon. All right, have a great day.